I know you. We've known each other for a long time. We're the same friend group. It's a really lovely friend group that we have cultivated over the years. We're very fortunate. But if I were a Victorian child,
Oh,
how would you explain who Boombaptist is?
if you were a Victorian child,
Explain to me like I'm a Victorian child.
I would say Boombaptist is not religiously affiliated, because
Perfect
that might
start.
be the first
Maybe.
concern.
Right.
Boombaptist is derived from early 90s hip-hop era.
You love the boom bap?
Boom bap beats and drums and all that. And Boombaptist is a bombastic being, an alter ego, so to speak,
Fantastic.
for me
name.
to exist in. That's what I would tell a Victorian child.
And they would be like, no, show me McDonald's Sprite.
Right. Yes, and we wouldn't have electricity, so I'd be fucked.
Yeah.
But that's
Which?
yeah. We need some Tesla coils or some shit to even get started. But yeah, that's what I would tell them.
I love the name. I've always loved the name. I think that it's one of those things. I feel like if other artists heard it, they'd be like, God damn,
Yeah.
that's really good.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
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 It's been there's been a few times where people have tried to use it.
No.
Anderson .Paak used it in a
No
in a
way.
bar. So I met Anderson .Paak at South by Southwest. He's stayed with us for a few days, and he saw on the cover of the studio Boombaptist. He said, "Yo, that's dope. What is that?" I said, "That's my name." He's like, "Man, I never heard that shit." And then 3 years later, track produced by Madlib.
Really? Really?
Yes, I bring you greetings from the First Church of Boombaptist. That's what he said.
I am not familiar with that.
It's called The Waters. Check it out.
So okay, so you see, so now it's 3 years after. So 3 years after you had Anderson .Paak. Actually, you had Anderson .Paak stay here.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
Anderson .Paak stayed at the old crib with Knowledge and Sam I Am real early on.
Yeah.
Not 3 years. Man, I don't know when it was. 2012.
What was that like?
2012. He looked like Cisco. He had a full white head.
Okay.
He was very green in the game.
Okay.
He was just excited to be around.
How many years ago was this?
2011, 2012.
Okay. So advanced as a musician to be so green then. You know, it's almost like...
I mean, he just didn't know Texas. I made him a margarita with habanero in it.
Oh, nice.
And it fucked his stomach up. It fucked his and Sam I Am's stomach up. Knowledge didn't have it. And they both called me from their showcases and they're like, or texted and they're like, yo, man.
Burning butts.
That was not it. Well, yeah, you're not supposed to start your trip like, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
You've been to Mexico. Mm-hmm. You don't want to start with some shit like that.
No, I ease in.
You got to at least, like, if you're going to go out with a bang, it's got to be at the end. And so I was responsible for fucking up their
Well, you want to show them the culture. Like, that's the thing about
Yes.
Texas. I think that, like, you know, totally. A lot of things about Texas that, you know, are repugnant. That's a fact, right? But the things that are fucking beautiful, like we were in Monterrey and like, you know, they have their, you know, last 2 weeks ago and they have their, you know, everywhere has their thing, right? They all have their like, you know, their sharp edges. Yeah. But, you know, the people that we linked up with, gorgeous, beautiful, giving. And, you know, I think that you have that vibe as well. How did we meet? Do you remember how we met? Do you remember? I feel like, I never remember clearly about anybody's like meeting them for the first time. It always just kind of blends in with my favorite memories. But I do recall going to Kellen's camp. Okay. I think that was when we were doing our adult summer camp. Okay. And you were making cappuccinos. Yes. With your foamer on the stovetop. And I was, dude, I was like, who the fuck is...
It's too much.
No, it's not. It's perfect.
I take that fucking espresso machine everywhere.
Absolutely.
Across state lines.
I get it.
And when people see me pull up with it, they're like, you snobby son of a bitch.
I understand.
Anybody's watching it, I'll make you the fucking espresso.
So delicious.
You will understand.
I think about it.
No, I mean...
I bring my
I like the
press.
artistry. So Daedalus is someone who I like to reference in this regard. He has an appreciation for all of the fine things. Like you see him and he's dressed in like, you know, royal, like dandy garment. Right. He's a big fan of espresso, like the true espresso. He does it just the most natural way. There's just something so beautiful about it's artistry in its own way.
Absolutely it is.
So I think that's why I appreciate it.
Absolutely it is. I bring my French press. I love a French press. And I bring that no matter where I go. You know, I bring it when I'm camping. I bring it, like I brought it to when we were in Mexico. You know what I mean? Like I was like, who wants
Huge
French?
difference.
It's such a difference.
Yeah. You got to take it with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I appreciate that about you.
Yeah, the camp, that was, I mean, we had known each other for a while then. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to say Plush.
Absolutely, I'm
in
sure.
these-
But I don't think so.
in
Because I
these
remember,
interviews, but maybe not.
I think as Plush was kind of those, and the interviews are coming. I remember being in the fucking. It was one of the. It was a Colombian restaurant that used to be Nasha. It's Nasha now. And you had walked in, you saw
Casa
Erica,
Colombia.
Casa Colombia.
Yeah.
That's where it was. And then you saw Erica.
Yeah.
And you were like, and I was like, I don't recognize that person. And she's like, oh, it's Andrew. He's a fucking dope beat producer.
Yeah.
And I think this is right before you got into Dub Academy and
Oh,
started
wow.
doing
Early
Ableton.
on.
Yeah, this is like probably,
Okay.
I want to say it was almost like a 2011
Okay.
situation as well.
That was very soon after.
We're going to get into that. Before we
cool,
get
cool,
there, and I know that everybody, does the like, let me see where you started. But you do have an interesting start. I interviewed you during South by. It was really quick. We haven't put it out. The sound was weird. So I want to
Let's do it again.
Go through this. Let's go through it again.
Yeah.
You go through, so you're Miami. That's where you're born, right?
Born in Venezuela.
Born in Venezuela.
Yes.
Have a green card.
Yep.
Wow.
I came.
Did you have to take the test?
As an infant, no. I mean, we came when I was 1 year old.
Okay, so they let you get a pass.
Yeah, it was fine.
That's interesting.
They
Which,
let me
now
get
they probably wouldn't. They'd be like fucking quiz them in at 5. You gotta do the pledge backwards.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible.
Yeah,
there.
it pretty is.
It wasn't that way back then. My folks were moving to Florida for a shrimp business. That was their thing.
Yeah.
Long story. I don't want to tell their story. That's for another time.
I read some of that. You can look at the Scratch Vinyl interview, which I loved, and there was so much detail in there, and it was definitely just so natural. I just hear your voice talking about it and giving the story. But what I do know that I need to touch on is that our love for Miami bass.
Oh,
so
man.
I was in Southern California, and then I was in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And like San Antonio is like what kicked off freestyle, which is this cousin, the sister of Miami bass.
All day.
All day. Your mother's a concert pianist.
Oh, yes.
You learned some of that.
Come on, Nardwar, you're crazy. You got all the facts.
That is, I want to be the Terry Gross / Nardwar.
My mother
hip-hop.
has always encouraged the creative side, but is a realist as well.
Yeah.
She has told me some of the sharpest things I've heard in my life, like you could study music, but you're going to die in the street.
Wow. It's very German also. I know she's Venezuelan, but I feel like that's
extremely hard. She has encouraged it the whole way.
What's her sign?
She's a Taurus.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Toro, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to Miami. They had me learning piano early.
Right.
And I took to, all the worst rappers.
Oh, well, I mean, like, but the Miami bass, so that's like what, mid to late 80s, right? That's like, we're coming in, like 88 is probably a really huge year, late 80s, right?
Yeah.
All the worst rappers, meaning how?
Vanilla Ice.
Oh, of course. No, dude, I was same. Same.
Shaquille O'Neal. And MC Hammer.
Of course, right, totally.
Probably the three.
I mean, but the pop music formula was working. Dude, they had the dances.
And Miami had a different, it just had like a fiery flavor where like that kind of cheese was like, okay.
I was in Southern California, so it's, we're still doing the I-10 situation, right?
Yeah.
Like similar to the Master P era where
yeah.
they wrap it out, right? There's so much connection there. So I was doing the same, dude. I was like, listening to all of those, not a terrible artist, Kid Frost, like these other derivatives that were really good, like Mellow Man Ace and like...
Okay, well that's fine.
Yeah. But there are the more pop ones. I mean, Tiffany, Debbie Gibson.
Okay.
I was getting in there. I mean, I was in the pop, you know what I'm saying? I think that, who was your first hip-hop? Was it Wu-Tang? Was it Wu-Tang that turned you on as your first hip-hop?
Wu-Tang was the first real shit.
Mine was De La Soul.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the De La Soul was great because they were weird.
So weird.
It was like you could like dip into being a free spirit while also being hip hop, which was like so unique about them.
Spoke to me.
Wu-Tang was like so incredibly opposite who I was.
Yeah.
Like I really have only gravitated towards hip hop for the beats, and so it's really like odd to see like a child in Catholic school like reciting like Ghostface,
Yeah.
And I think like it was just obsession. At that era, I would like read shit as if they were raps. Like when I was studying and shit as a kid, it was too much. It was too much. It was full obsession, and that was just from listening to radio and being around. Yeah. Around it a little bit.
Someone told me a few years ago that I send texts like they're rap verses.
Oh yeah.
I didn't recognize it.
Yeah. in prose.
Yeah.
It's a certain.
I just feel like it's more I'm doing it subconsciously, but I'm like, when I'm writing a text, I want somebody to understand.
Right.
Like fully without saying like a block wall of shit.
You hit him with a couple bars.
Hit him with a couple bars. you know? Do you ever wonder, like, what would have happened if it wasn't Miami? Like, what if your parents were like...
All the time.
Yeah?
Well, I think about if I had stayed in Miami.
Okay.
Because I moved when I was 12.
Right.
And had I stayed there, man, I'd probably be a little bit more of an asshole, I think.
Yeah, you think?
Texas taught me to be, like, really compassionate and, like, sweet.
Well, I would think New Mexico, too, because you moved to New Mexico
Yes.
after that. And that's a very
total change of
grounded
life.
state.
Total change of lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We went to New Mexico to, become healthy. Like, my mom got sick in Florida. So, like, New Mexico had the cleanest air, Santa Fe. Mm-hmm. So we went there and just, like, changed our entire life. Like, Santa Fe is a majestic place. Maybe you've been, or...
I went to Albuquerque for Gathering of Nations once, and it was great. And I also, like, linked up with Apache Skateboard. Shout out Doug Miles and Apache Skateboards, Razel Benelli. And, you know, like, my mother actually had been, like, Instagram friends with them. My mother is a crazy dude. She'll, like, end up, like, making these relationships with people like Subcomandante Marcos, you know, Douglas Miles from Apache Skateboards, fucking Big Sleeps, who's one of the biggest Chicano, like, tattoo artists in LA. Shit. And, like, he sent me a drawing that she had finagled from. It's bananas.
That's
and,
your
like,
mom's?
It's wild. But she had forged this relationship with them. So when we went to the Gathering of Nations, he, like, took me around. They were like, you know, Randy Boogie and Cloudface. Have you heard about that? Yeah. Like, so, like, they were like, you know, we're breakdancing and hip hop, doing all the elements, right? Like, there was spray paint, and they were like fucking flute beatboxing, and you know, again, it was so dope. Yeah. Cool. So, you know, it was like loving like the hip hop culture there, and of course, like being with my indigenous peoples, and you know, so I love New Mexico. Probably want to live in a pueblo at some point. You think about going back ever? Or?
When life slows down, I think probably it'll be time to go back.
I get it. We'll all go do our commune there.
You know what I'm
saying?
talk
about that.
Yeah,
Malou,
not right now.
Malou will project manage us out there. And she said that's her only job.
Yeah, we'll go to San Fe.
Yeah. So you're in New Mexico. You go to the Waldorf school.
Oh my God. So yeah, Waldorf is like super arts based. Mm-hmm. It's a German philosophy on the block system where you just focus on one thing at a time. Like you study multiple things, but really like your focus has to be in chemistry for a full month, or it has to be in this for a full month.
Okay.
You make your own.
I like that.
You do your own inscriptions and like write in your own textbooks. It's like a full. By the end of your 1 month, you've written everything you need to know yourself, and it's like a book that you take home with.
Oh wow.
Pretty wild.
You know what? I've been in the Texas public educational system, and that sounds way better. Like, dude, my high school was built literally next to a mall.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I studied jazz flute.
Okay, I was gonna talk about this because
Yeah. So I think I gravitated toward drums like everybody.
Right.
They were taken. That's how it works. Band. So I did flute. I come from a Latin background, so my mom taught me all about Latin jazz and salsa, and so I was like, oh, I could maybe do this thing in like a Latin music context. I was a uber salsa fan at the time. And so yeah, the jazz program was 6 of us, really small group, and we would go all over the board. Mm-hmm. And we would suggest shit. And
you're doing abstract, you're doing...
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, and we would even write shit. We learned to write music.
Yeah.
We performed a bunch, and I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
So real early on. And like improvising the whole shit. So they fostered that.
Dope.
Yeah.
That's fucking
So
cool.
maybe if I was in Miami, that doesn't happen.
Well, and so, you know, obviously still a good sound in Miami bass. I don't know if it still exists out there, but I was listening to Boom Shakalaka earlier, just before, like, you know, we got into the interview, and noticing how many genres it exposes. And I think like one of the second or third songs, you pick it up with a swing beat. And so I was wondering, you know, like one of my questions was like, you know, how do you, and obviously you have to, and you do, but how do you apply jazz into your
all of
production,
it.
Right?
Jazz is in everything.
It is in everything.
Jazz is in Africa. Africa gave us everything we needed musically, and then it spread out across every genre. So yes, I mean, my jazz chops, you know, I learned music theory in high school.
Yeah.
I was in jazz in high school as well, still playing the flute, but I learned music theory, and you need rules, but not too many rules.
Right, yeah.
That's why jazz is so dope.
Yeah.
Like, you could jump in and out, you know, sometimes playing the wrong notes, you're playing the right notes.
This is also where I liked breakdancing, because it was like, you know, it's not something that it's like, you know, you think about Russian ballet, and it's very confined, it's very strict, you know, it's beautiful. but it's, you know, you're kind of freestyling, you're doing your own thing, and, you know, obviously still coming from, you know, Black roots. How many instruments do you play?
Like 6 or 7 instruments.
That's bananas.
Yeah.
What are they? I know you flute. You play drums. You can play drums.
Flute, keys, drums, percussion. I can play bass. I can play some horn.
Yeah. Trumpet's crazy. I think the trumpet is really. I love a trumpet.
It's tough.
How do you have 3
Getting
valves?
the embouchure correct.
Embouchure.
You know, you got to get your. It's just really, really tough.
Only 3 little buttons. Like who's cool?
It's all in like how much air you can force out. That's how you get up and down octaves. To me, the craziest shit, and I tried to learn, was
trombone. Yeah.
Like there's so little reference there.
Right. You kind of have to, it's all like a weird mathematical memory. It's almost like a math rock of an instrument, right?
Yeah. I was talking to someone about math rock, but specifically math in music, and like how dope math rock, yes.
Yeah.
Or drum and bass are great ways to think about creativity and math intersecting, right? Like that's the most technical shit you could do.
Yeah.
It's still creative, but like, yeah, I think drum and bass is a good example. That's still funky. Sometimes with math rock, and Yadira and I will talk about Yadira, always joke about this. Like, imagine people at math rock, they're like not really catching the beat, and then like 7 minutes later, they're like, oh yeah, like that's my shit.
You kind of like understand the development of like the build of where they were going, and then you're kind of waiting in the balance of like, where is this going?
Where is this going? It can be tough.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've.
That's interesting because it's almost like, you know, they say like, you know, comedy is like tragedy and timing, right? And you think about like, I'll think about like comedy a lot, and there's like an absurdist comedian where it'll take them a long build before they actually get to the drop of understanding it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes deception is also really cool though.
Yeah.
Like Norm Macdonald was that way.
Oh.
Norm Macdonald, you would be watching him and you'd be like, man, this is so not funny that it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think that like that can be really.
And he
dope
spaced
too.
that out, and then the body finally. I don't think I talked about this last interview, but I was listening to Radio Lab, and they were doing a specific piece, or it was maybe This American Life, on comedy, and it was going through the timing thing, and one of them was the loop. And they were saying, like, you know, when you repeat something and you do the bit consistently, people are like, that's funny. Then they're like, what's going on? And then you keep doing it, and eventually they're like, that's funny again.
Yeah.
You know, like it kind of runs its way back around.
It's true.
Yeah. I like that, you know, artistically speaking, like that the comedy music kind of has that similarity.
Definitely.
Pinging back to...
Oh, yeah, we're jumping everywhere.
No, and I love, we're actually going on the right thing. Like I was, you know, like again, listening to Boom Shakalaka, beautiful fucking album too. Like I remember getting that in the pandemic, having it arrive, playing it, you know, again, isolated, you know, so you really had a lot of time for yourself. So I'm like making breakfast and listening to it and just being like, like this is, like it's just from, buy it, listen to it. It's on Spotify. You know, so many basketball references, but also wonderful tribute to underground classic hip hop samples. How many samples do you think that you have in
enough to get sued into perpetuity? Yeah, I mean,
I was wondering, like, I was like, look at that, like
the only sample I got permission to use was the announcer from NBA Jam. So I had him interspersed throughout.
Yeah.
Shout out Tim Kitzrow. Tim Kitzrow was a stand-up comedian. What was the famous Chicago one that everyone from SNL would go to?
UBC under Upright Citizens Brigade.
Upright Citizens Brigade.
UCB, yep.
He was a comedian there. He never took off.
Interesting.
NBA Jam was trying to get the announcer for their game. They couldn't get the rights to the most famous announcer of the time, who was Marv Albert. So they hit up this dude and they're like, hey, can you do like an off-color sort of dirty version? We've heard your stuff. You have a classic voice. And they hired him right there on the spot, and the version that shipped with the game wasn't what he did because it was too dirty. Like he was saying some like nasty shit.
Wow.
Yes, a bunch of cursing, and they couldn't get the rating high enough for the game. That's
funny.
But he and I call each other every once or twice a year, and
really?
Yeah, and he's, you know.
Does he have the album? Does he listen to the
Of course.
Oh, that's crazy.
Of course.
That's so cool.
No, I spoke to him. I spoke to the creator of the game originally. Like I wanted to do it some form of justice, and I thought that like speaking with them and learning about the process was vital. So like, spoke with them, got permission from the announcer, and used his samples all through it. But yeah, the hip hop shit is not particularly cleared.
I feel like if they did hear it, they'd be like, that's fine.
Hip hop is like when you hear DJ Premier's scratch chorus, okay, it's DJ Premier, right?
Right.
But there might be Carmen in there. There might be this rapper, that rapper.
Right.
Bahamadia.
Love.
Maybe it's agreed upon that like, Premier's the godfather of hip hop. He could use all of it. But he's not the only one doing the shit.
Totally not.
You will always hear little scratch courses where they do little tiny bits of this part, that part. It's part of that culture. So I feel...
Absolutely.
I feel a certain like kinship with that sort of like phrase thing.
Yeah.
I exist in an instrumental world where like a lot of people just want passive listening.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people just want beats.
Right.
With no vocals.
Yeah.
I can't do that shit.
Yeah.
I can't. So I have to put the samples in and make it engaging. And,
totally. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Which is interesting. I think that one of the things we also bonded on is that for a long time with hip hop, we really focus only on the beat, but we still need the rap in it because I'm feeling that punctuation.
Yes.
And then recently for me, I think I went back and I was like, hang on, there's a few of these that I just need to listen to the entire and kind of understand, like what's going on. I know MF Doom I was like always listening to, but giving him a hard listen now, I'm like, fuck, there's just so many things in there.
So many layers.
Yeah.
Okie dokie, snooky, rookie.
Dude, he does Operation Doomsday. He was like, the fly, sicko, sixo.
Do it in his voice.
Yeah, just the fly, sickle, who throws his dick around. And I have a video of me in traffic listening to like a 3-minute video of me trying to break down and say it the exact way that he did it.
Yeah.
And it's like, even like once you understand the lyrics.
He's a master.
The way to just deliver it in the same way.
Yes.
Unheard of. I think he faked his death.
You need to...
Respectfully.
He's still on the boat in the UK, broadcasting live.
Respectfully.
Oh, man. No, anyone who's watched this, ask Misa next time you see her to do the Binary Star. What's the track?
Reality Check.
Reality Check verse. Verses.
Verses. Like
front to back.
Whole thing, front to back. It's like my...
Very impressive. Very impressive.
It's like my vocal stimulant. I realize if I'm having a hard day, I do that, and Freddie Gibbs is Thuggin'. Back to back. I'll just put them in cue, back to back to back.
Too?
Oh, all the way, yeah. Man. The entire thing. Love it. Great
That's
delivery.
Tough. There's very few tracks like that for me.
Yeah.
Very few.
Right, I only have those two.
Very few.
I think I've been trying Mobb Deep, Shook Ones, and I kind of got a lot, like some of that. But like those are the ones that really give me like.
Oh yeah.
What are yours? Like
when you're on your way to some shit and you're like, I'm gonna put this joint on, wrap it all the way to the end, and fucking go kill my boss.
Right. Yeah. Which is, I was listening
shit.
to an interview earlier. Not an interview. I was listening to. Well, it kind of was. I was listening to a Radio Lab thing, and they were talking about lying, and they were like, they had done this study where they asked. These questions. They're like shameful questions to ask.
For example,
do you enjoy pooping?
Okay.
Like, do you ever have a rape fantasy? And like the people that answered no, when like the people that there's two people like doing the interview and like and talking. They're like, obviously some of these are not all the way no's. Like there are these are things that are shameful in human condition, right? And they were like, but there's people who answered all no, and it turns out those people were in a swim team. They were athletes, and the ones that answered no were the best. They had the highest scores. They were top athletes because it takes a level of lying to yourself to be the best. I've never been able to do that. And they were saying that they were saying the happiest people are the ones that can lie to themselves, where the most depressed people are fully aware and fully I will admit anything. I will be very open. I will lay it out. I'll overshare. Yeah. I definitely have depression situations. I work it out. It's fine. I'm an old hat at it. But there in breakdance competitions, right? I hardly ever really advanced past like second, round because I didn't have that thing in me where I was like, oh, fucking shit.
Fuck these motherfuckers.
I fucking got that. I'm the best one in this.
Right.
I knew. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like where I was. But I do know that competitors would do that. You have to.
You have to lie to yourself to believe that you can.
I feel like that because you are a jovial person, like you cheer us on, you give us the pep talks. Okay. You are absolutely master at your craft.
Okay, keep going.
You're very, very good at what you do. Okay. There has to be something of that too, where you got to, like you mentioned, you're going to the jam, you're going to the gig, and you're listening to your favorite songs, you're rapping it, and you're like, I'm fucking ready. You know, like
Man.
you beef yourself up. I'm gonna say you goose
MOP.
yourself up. MOP, dude, that'll get you.
MOP
it's
is
big boss shit.
like MOP is like heavy metal rap.
That really, yeah.
It's like, man, I remember playing it when I was a teenager, and one of my parents walked in the room, and I was doing some stupid shit, and they're like, "These people are screaming." They go in there, they're screaming. I go, "It sounds so good."
It sounds so good.
No, that's my shit.
Yeah.
MOP, it's Premier Beats, and like for the most part, and I met those dudes.
Yeah.
I met those dudes in Nashville. Had a nice conversation with them. Gods of hip hop.
Absolutely. Did you watch them remember when Scion was doing free shows?
Were
you here when they
brought
him?
I was here when they were doing all that and the dubstep shows and all of that. I remember Scion. Scion was Mr. Prince quit that. Scion was the official DJ car.
Absolutely.
You could connect into you remember that shit? You could connect into the back. There were like XLRs in the back or something.
Totally, yeah.
And like they were like leaning real hard into the DJ world.
Yeah.
And
I honestly believe that they helped carry the culture.
For sure.
Past, you hit backpack rap. There's a little bit of a gap because there's Puff Daddy and his shiny suits era, which Canalingus, Southern Underground, Southern Playlist.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, they're Southern Underground. They have a great track about that.
Yeah.
Fucking so many rap alliterations in there. And, like, then it was backpack rap. Yeah. And then Scion carried in backpack rap. Smart choice. Could you imagine if they fucking went the other way and they rode with
If it weren't for Scion, I probably wouldn't be doing instrumental hip hop.
Really?
Scion made an instrumental mix called what was it called? Blue Gems was the DJ. He passed away, but he was doing Sam I Am and Flying Lotus and all that shit. I'd never heard Exile. I'd never heard any of that stuff. And that right when I moved to Austin, I was like, oh my god.
Right.
I don't need rappers.
So you were rapping before then.
I was rapping when I got here.
And were you making beats and rap and sending to rappers? But then you were like, let me just go into the instrumental.
Well, because I was sending packs out to rappers, hoping to sell. Like every producer in the world, for the most part, when you're in hip hop, you're just sending 30 beats out, hoping that like one person will pay you $150 at the time or $100.
Yeah.
And Freddie Fox, but Bumpy Knuckles, he hit me back and he was like, yeah, I'll take like these 3 or 4, but like you don't need to get a rapper on these. Like these are great.
Really? Freddie Fox told you that?
Freddie Fox told me that, and at the time I was in a beat league, in this British beat league with all these great producers. And what would happen is at the top of the week they'd give you a sample, and it's you versus me.
Wow.
And they'd give you fucking whoever, Teddy Pendergrass or Curtis Mayfield.
Right.
And we gotta do our best. And so you would pull out all the stops. And back in the day, I used to just do loops. And then I said, I gotta learn how to do drum rolls and sound effects and really fuck with this shit. Cause like it's the equivalent of breakdance battling.
Absolutely.
Like you're just trying to pull out whatever stops you can. And that's how I learned to really like trick out music, production wise, was from these battles.
So one thing there, right, is that Freddie Fox, my B-girl name was Militia. Still is Militia. I mean, I'm never going to stop. But like, Freddie Fox, Militia, that fucking track.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's so good. I fucking throw that on and it's me.
I'm thinking of the verse right now. Yeah. Yeah.
God,
really
I can't
good.
even write. So good. What was your first piece of electronic equipment you were making beats on?
Computer. I downloaded
Fruity Loops
on my parents' computer. I downloaded Fruity Loops demo version.
Ninth Wonder was doing Fruity,
yes,
killing it with Fruity Loops.
Still is.
You're right. Yeah, still using Fruity Loops.
Still using
wow.
Fruity Loops and
still killing it. So good.
And reps it really hard. Like
love that.
He's like
that's fucking like almost 20 years of using Fruity Loops.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's like the artist, not the tool.
You could be funky on anything.
Absolutely.
Totally. I started on Fruity Loops. And then I went to MPC.
Yeah.
And then more MPC and more MPC.
Right.
That's like the hip hop.
To do a drum roll, when I was trying to there was a short stint where I was trying to make beats with friends. I'm really good at pulling samples, but like when it comes to using the hardware, it was really tricky. I worked on an ASR 10 for a minute. I think I was better on that than I was on MPC.
Yeah.
No, it was a sampler. It was like, and I did have some sampling pads, but it was ASR 10. Yeah, it was red hardware.
Nice.
And it was, but it didn't last, right? The MPC kind of definitely oversold, bought it out.
ASR is good.
ASR's
Alchemist uses ASR.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. What I realize now that I would accidentally make drum rolls because my finger would just yeah. And I was like, I can't stop doing the thing.
The samplers are imperfect. They break down really easily.
It was definitely the ASR 10.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of
Ginger
MPCs,
knobs.
and the connection on the MPC beneath the pad would be so bad that I'd have to get under there with tin foil so that it could conduct
Wow.
a connection.
Wow. Because they're expensive pieces of equipment. You're going to figure it
Yes.
out. I'm glad. That's amazing. That I wonder how many other people did the same thing. I wonder if that's like a weird Reddit forum. Right. We had New Mexico. You went to Colorado. You went to, that's where you went to school. You went to college, right? And then I imagine that you're getting your chops. You're rapping a lot there, right?
Oh,
you're
God.
Thesaurus Rex.
Thesaurus Rex.
Great name. During that time, also the backpack era, everybody had really great names. One of my friends is Sonny Fono.
Oh, I know Sonny Fono.
Oh, you do? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He doesn't he work for the Trailblazers?
He absolutely does.
Yes.
He absolutely does. Yeah, he was in San Francisco, and he still goes back and forth there. He has one of the longest running nights at Madrona Art Bar.
Really supportive. He's great.
No, he's a gem. He's a total gem. Actually, I need to reply to your text. He was sending me. He's working on some beat production now, and so
nice.
he's been sending him over some of the tracks we've been working on. The last one he sent me is pretty fucking good.
No shit.
Also does every full moon he does a jazz playlist.
Cool.
And they're very nice.
I'll scope it.
Very nice. Yeah.
He's a sweet man.
He is a sweet man. Just again, a gem of a human. So, but you're in Colorado. We also know the friend Hoodie Allen, Bubs.
Oh yeah,
that was a great name.
Oh yeah,
so many great names during the backpack era.
Pun-based names.
It was great. It was great. You're in Colorado. You're at the Thesaurus Rex. You're rapping around. So you're rapping, rap hands. Rap battles.
A lot of
battles.
battles.
Such a fun time.
A lot of battles, a lot of disrespectful things I've said to people.
The punchline era was phenomenal.
That's the kind of rapper I was. Entirely punchline based, not for the sake of accomplishing any improvement to humanity.
We wouldn't have the great film 8 Mile.
Yes.
If it wasn't for punchline rap.
100%.
And to that, right, you're somewhere in the Midwest, and
yes.
we were talking about this a little bit earlier. We're definitely going to touch on friendship, but we were discussing friends who you can share music with.
Yes.
And that they accept it.
Yeah.
And you can get that musical, chemistry going.
Oh, yeah.
And I had mentioned that I have a friend like that that I haven't met in real life. He goes, I will line. I think we won't say his government name, but I've known him since the Hip Hop Forum message boards, Galapagos 4 in Chicago.
Holy smokes!
And that's also how I know Scuba Steve, who was one of y'all.
Through there first.
Through there first. That's where I met Scuba Steve. I met him first. I didn't meet him in person at all until I went out there in 2005 and finally met a bunch of them. DJ Intel.
No shit.
Pickles.
Deep in the hip hop
deep there, right? And so we both enjoy Just Biz, and there's the Chicago Gooding two things there, right? Quell of Typical Cats, amazing
incredible battle rapper,
incredible rapper. Everybody on that album, Quasar, Denizen Kane, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
DJ Natural was doing all their beats.
Yeah.
But also meeting Maker.
Yes.
In Maker, I see Heat Rock Records, Maker and True, who run Heat Rock. And when your Boom Shakalaka came out, I remember being I was like, hey, let me send you a couple of records. And I sent him the Vapor Caves album, which
he
is
loved it.
And then the Boom Shakalaka. He's like, oh, actually, he released. What did he release? What did they release on your?
Somewhere in here.
Yeah.
They released a Lil' Kim remix that I did for them. Came out great.
Yeah.
My introduction to Galapagos. This is crazy. So I was in a rap group in New Mexico called Typical Human Animals.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Opening for Typical Cats.
Shut the fuck up. Wow.
Where roller rink, oh God, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was called Area 66.
Okay.
And it was owned by some wild hippy dippy couple, married couple. And they were very strong alien believers.
I love it.
New Mexico as a whole, New Mexico, Colorado, that whole area.
Yeah.
A lot of activity. Whatever you believe or don't believe,
I believe it.
It's always there.
Hey, so does the government.
Yeah, absolutely. And their rink was named after, Area 51.
Right.
And so you go into this roller rink, it's very over the top, and there's alien heads everywhere, and then there's their office.
Yeah.
Past the rink.
Okay.
And if you were alt enough, don't think of this in any kind of way besides what it is, they would invite you, and they would basically try and convert you.
Oh, to
like
what?
To believing.
Oh, okay. So they were like, tell me about, right, okay.
They would be like, hey, you seem like you like aliens. And we'd be like, I never said that.
Essentially, it's my future.
But, right. But
Yeah.
they would be like, you have a different vibe. Like, what's going on
You're
with
a little
you?
weirdo.
And then they would just throw it on.
I need to meet them.
And they were cool as shit. I think the roller rink is still open. But that's where the fucking show with Quell, whoever was rolling in Typical Cats at the time, which was like...
It was still Denizen, Quasar, Denizen
Denizen Kane.
DJ Natural as our DJ.
No.
He wasn't there.
At the time, it was Scratch Bastard.
Shut the fuck
Who's
up.
Who's a monster DJ now.
Absolutely.
And so that was my introduction to Quell. He was a total weirdo, but an incredible rapper.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I didn't know Maker yet, but I knew of his beats through all the Galapagos production.
Right.
So it's just wild, like kismet situation to
Maker's
reconnect with
vibe
him.
of beat making, I told him this like a couple years ago, it's like rolling through a Cutlass in the Hood.
Oh yeah.
Your shit's like rolling through
it's
and
beautiful.
it's so good.
He's so good, so dusty.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, just fucking, and so he kindly, after I sent him y'all's records,
Yeah.
he sent me their entire discography of 45s on Heat Rock.
For DJs, that shit is like gold.
Right.
Yeah.
Altered tapes on the Heat Rock. Check it out. It's phenomenal. When I was reading the Scratch Vinyl interview, you were mentioning, being in Austin and how it is a laid-back vibe where it can be difficult at times to get a project finished.
Yes.
And to get people to rally for it because we are, in Vapor Caves did a great song Endless Summer about this where people move here because it's like it's like having a margarita. It's like Margaritaville for like the fucking yuppies. All the time. All the time.
Yes.
Yeah. And with Chicago, what I noticed is that because, and I think this happens a lot of places in the North, like again, being, a break dancer, everybody was just so dope there. Everyone, because you can't go outside during the winter. And the winter's like 8 months long.
Stuck sessioning, yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, come to my basement.
Yeah.
We're going to fucking do what we love to do.
Yeah.
Consistently and constantly.
Yes.
And hone the craft.
And their musical history is like
Absolutely.
crazy rich.
Absolutely.
I can't say that there's like any lineage for me in Texas musically at all that I can follow.
Right.
Big respect to everyone who's done it here, but like my shit didn't come from here. You know what I mean?
Right,
I'm
definitely.
happy to contribute to it, but not.
Because your rap style also is, I feel like it's a mix of Midwest and East Coast.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like talking to Rap Daddles, you have a really great story that I love.
Oh
with
yeah.
Pitbull.
Yeah.
And
My parents' 30th anniversary in Miami. We went back to Miami. We went to Joe's Stone Crab, one of the finest stone crab establishments in all of the United States.
Very Caribbean.
And I felt like a third wheel. I left their dinner because it was also the NBA playoffs. The Miami Heat were playing against the Dallas Mavericks. It was a really important game. So I went to the back bar. There was a gentleman in the back bar with two ladies and then two older white men. And it was Pitbull. There were two record execs who were signing some kind of deal with him. And then the two ladies, you could fill in the blank. And I was playing it cool. And my mom showed up. And my mom said, Andrew, in Spanish, that's Pitbull. I go, yeah, it's fucking Pitbull, Mom. And she goes, we have to get an autograph. So she goes and she says, could I take a picture and get an autograph? Of course. She says, muchas gracias for the picture. He says, muchas nalgas, which means you got a lot of ass. And my mom was a little shook because it was like kind of odd to have a man half his age hitting on her, especially when he's like a Miami icon.
Right.
And
What
so,
do you do, right? Like that's, you don't want to be as ego is difficult anyways to manage.
Look,
and you have this guy.
I don't appreciate Pitbull.
Same. Mr.
Particularly.
Worldwide, not my world.
Whose world
Whose
exactly?
world, dude?
Yeah. All he does is you start the rap beat right here on Beats Within. All he's got is area codes, abbreviations for cities, and he just says like "dale" over and over.
Hold a gun to my head right now. Couldn't name a Pitbull song. I would die. And you know what? I will die on that hill also. So fucking dying anyways. Whatever.
Anyway, Pitbull, I'm sending you a message direct through the camera.
Same.
Because last time I whooped that ass.
True.
When we rapped against each other. Yes, we rapped against each other. And the two...
But set it up. How did it happen? So he says your mom's got a lot of ass.
He says your mom got a lot of ass. I said, Pitbull, let's freestyle, man. And he was fucked up. He had been drinking a whole lot. And he couldn't string two words together. And at the time, I was, as Yadir always says, the lyrical miracle. That's when the nerdy-ass rappers try to put together too many bars. I was the lyrical miracle back in the day. So I put together this crazy set of lines. And his response was, man, you couldn't even understand that shit. Which Pitbull, if you're Pitbull and you're on billboards across Miami, you'd think that like a little teenager wouldn't really bother you. But he was butthurt. And then one of the girls that was with him goes, I don't know, papi, he was really good. I felt just like full, vindication, like all of it. Just like I defended my mom.
Totally, right.
I had my rap moment. Anyway, the rapping days are behind me, but fuck Pitbull and his disrespectful ass. Don't let him around your mother.
Name of his next album, by the way. That's how you know he watched this. Don't let me around your mother. First song, Muchos Nalgas.
Yeah. Yo, anyway. So.
I think that kind of goes into some things when we were talking about earlier with like you have to lie to yourself to be one of the best, right?
Oh, yeah.
You have to kind of do the thing. And for me, what I've been trying recently is instead of, trauma looping, where sometimes I think about all this shit and I'll be like driving and I'm like, fuck them, I'm going to tell him I'm probably going to send it to him. You know what I mean? I don't, right? I've been trying to think of, there's so many good memories that I should just be remembering instead and finding myself.
Instead of cursing.
Do you hold those on to you like as a creative? Are you looking at your wins? Are you looking at your level ups? And are you remembering those things?
No.
And an artist, I think, is really, we're really we're our worst critics, right? I mean, anybody is.
For sure.
Artists or not. I think we're all artists, but still.
For sure. I mean, I think the way that I get through it is just being like a Uber fan.
Of you, or just an Uber fan of everything?
Uber fan. Uber supportive, Uber fan, because like the moment you're not inspired or you don't think another artist is worth a shit, then you probably are missing something inside,
100%,
right? That's how I choose to look at it, and I'm just
always a student.
Yeah, because there's so much incredible shit out there. That's probably mostly how.
Yeah. I feel that. I think that there's like a shift for me. I'm working on a shift, right? I'm like, 42. And so thinking about like, hey, you've been doing this shit for a minute. How about you fucking flip it around? Life's a science experiment. Give it another try.
I mean, to be fair.
Right.
If someone cuts you off in traffic.
It's not even that. It's just me driving and thinking about past traumas.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Fuck this
like when you have,
Right.
I mean, fuck that dude, though. Fuck
Totally,
Pitbull
100%.
and fuck that dude.
Because it could be both, right? I'm like, I could still remember, maybe have memory with them to kind of cancel out what they, whatever the anger I had with them.
That's true.
And not be the extreme of like, well, it's only this way, why not both?
Right.
Like, just like life is, you have your
the totality.
The totality.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
And going
question.
into kind of like keeping the theme of believing in yourself and pushing yourself. You mentioned earlier about, sending your beats out to people and looking at, I think you mentioned also Butcher Bear as being one of your biggest, supporters.
Butcher Bear is the reason that I want other people to release music. He makes me feel so good about releasing anything.
Yeah.
And everybody needs that.
Everyone does need that.
In whatever form.
Right.
Everyone needs someone in their corner who's like, yo, motherfucker.
100%. There's so much toxic perfectionism, I think, that it kind of gets, it's just gotten more exponentially worse as we're in like the social media and like people are like looking at themselves and they think, we're in a society of instant gratification. So if we're not good immediately, toss it.
I couldn't agree more. I think that the internet shit, well, first of all, we've become polarized in all of our reactions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody has a medium reaction.
Right.
You can't just have an okay experience watching something. You have to hate it.
Right.
Or it needs to be the best ever. Yeah. Everything is so extreme.
Right.
But really, you just need to like root people on.
Right.
And that's what he did for me. Even if he didn't think it was good, he'd be like, Doug, hell yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Right, keep going.
So that's what I'm doing now on the label side. Like, when I see people who need the bump, that's my role.
Right.
Cheerleader.
Right.
Because it was huge for me. I wouldn't have released Boom Shakalaka without him. So.
When I read that he had done, he was telling you like keep going.
Yeah.
Keep keep going at it. Pitch it to different
labels.
Yeah. And get the reaction, see what their reaction is. What is it like? I mean, I have a hard time with failure.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
I think, we mentioned, like, people with ADHD, whether I have it or not, I probably do, but who knows. I mean, I'm on medication for it, but still. So is everybody. That's why we have an Adderall shortage in fucking America. Which that doesn't. We can't all have it.
Yes.
You know, like, we can't all have it.
Y'all need to cut back on that shit.
Figure it out.
Leave it all for Misa.
Yeah, leave it for me though. It's a Vyvanse. I'm fine. It's hard. I think I can take feedback more on my artistry than I can on like my professional work, which is just like that's toxic and trauma for me, anyways. Just being in like a professional environment of sorts, like a tech environment, which I've come from. But what is it like when you're waiting? I don't know. Like, how do you
when you send a full body of work and they're just like, not this time?
Yeah. What do you just kind of? Because I'm unemployed right now, right? I'm working some things out, and I'm sending my resumes because I got it for unemployment, and I'm looking at like my deny list, and I know what it says. Like, now we're not going to use you, so like I skip it. But it's still, even though I didn't want it, it still kind of hurts. And so, but you're doing this. It is. But you move on forward. Is it the same thing as like you gotta kind of like lie to yourself and be like, now you don't have to lie. You're so good at what you do, but it's still that thing of you can't let it get you down. You gotta keep going. The show must go on. That's the way the cookie crumbles.
It's really disappointing.
That's show business, baby.
No, man, it's disappointing.
Yeah.
It's disappointing because it's like labels. It's like the exact job that you think you're perfect for, and like this X list of things. Of course, such label or job would hire me. It's so disappointing.
Yeah.
That was rough. His approach was interesting in motivating me because he was like, you should try and hit this really high mark.
Interesting.
And so I went to the highest peak that I could in terms of like the people who would sign me. And then I had to work back from there. Right. And it was like a total ego thing. It's like, oh, wait, maybe that doesn't have to happen to actually release music. Right. Like the label thing is sort of fuzzy. Like artists think it means something much more than it really does.
It's a reputational thing. It's a gang set.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
Part of it is like some people don't want to promote. I love promoting. Right. I love creating a concept and like marketing plan. Like that shit to me, it comes natural. So this whole time I'm freaking out about putting a title of a label on the back of an album that like I created this full world for.
Right.
So Boom Shakalaka didn't need a label. Right. Even though he ended up doing it, I could have done it totally fine by myself.
Right.
Most artists eventually realize, and if they are committed enough to their shit, they're gonna figure out what you have to do to get there.
Which is Cream Dream Records.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like, every independent artist, you can do this shit.
Right.
All the shit is on YouTube.
That's funny that, that you bring that up also, because right now comedians are in the same realization.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody wanted to get the HBO stand-up special.
Oh, yeah.
Then it was Netflix stand-up specials. But now, like, it was Andrew Schultz who really pushed the envelope there, is that, you can do your own YouTube special.
Oh, yeah.
And I never really watched YouTube longer than, like, let me look at a few clips. And now, I always thought that YouTube was, like, kind of like more of a...
Some boomer shit.
No, actually, I thought it was more of like a Gen Z, Gen Alpha guys game. Not to put like any type of gender on it, but it was like there's a meme that was like, there's a guy waiting to show you 1,000 YouTube videos like right now.
That's true,
and it's true. But like now, recently, I'm like, I know the podcasts that I like are also filmed, and so and I want to watch those. I want to see the reactions. I want to see like how they're I just want to see their movements and everything. And Ari Shaffir recently released one of his stand-ups there called Jew. Very good.
On YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. Stavros Halkias. He has one on YouTube as well. Love Stavros. Great. Yeah, and so like comedians are also doing the same thing where you could just you go to YouTube.
I think
it's free, it's uploaded, and it's got a wide...
definitely did
absolutely shifted it.
Pandemic made everybody have a TV show.
Right.
And some people stayed with it.
So Colorado, you're rapping, you're making some beats, and then you come to Austin, you do the Scion shows, you realize you can do instrumentals.
Yes.
But your time in Austin also, you've done so many projects, and this also pings back into the marketing and promo you were just talking about. You were producing, you were rapping, you then got into Applied Pressure, and Applied Pressure put on some of the most amazing live shows that I still have not seen really anybody do, and the fact that y'all recreated the Portishead Dummy album. You recreated DJ Shadow's Introducing. Beautiful, full-on vocalist, all the samples. It was phenomenal. And now, you did production with Keeper. And then you and Yadira, branched off and are now doing Vapor Caves, phenomenal project. And watching your growth during that whole time, just watching that level up personally and seeing it each and every time. a few questions here about first, like, what is it like for you as an artist when you're realizing that you're leveling up, like your acceptance of it? Like, are you acknowledging, you're like, oh shit, you know, like, no, you're just flowing, you're just in the flow, you're just going.
No, I mean, like you make room for new shit. You make like
You're
stages of life,
right,
and reactions to what happened. Before we started Vapor Caves, I was a part-time arcade operator. That led into Boom Shakalaka, which was about video games.
Right.
Totally
NBA Jam.
Put that behind me, and then learn how to make funk. You know, like I think that it's just like you kind of like move sections of your life out of the way. It's writers. That's definitely how it works for lyric writers, right? Like,
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with heartbreak, she's gonna write a bunch of like go to hell, dude, or like you know, revenge verses or whatever, what have you.
Yeah.
And I think it's a reaction to that. I also like producing for Keeper. We did like a smooth, sexy, sort of down-tempo thing that was more inspired by like post-dubstep stuff and a little bit of jungle in there and like some of that. And so I think it was just a reaction to like, okay, well, we produced in this style for this project. Let's like automatically go the other direction. The same way when you get out of a relationship with someone and you're like, I'm looking for the exact opposite of my last girlfriend or boyfriend or what have you.
Right.
You're always trying to just take a quick left turn to see like, oh, well, maybe this over here will like motivate me.
And enough like
it's just
kind
a challenge
of
to yourself,
gumption
you know?
to do that too, because you're like, fucking nothing. I'm just
you know, I mean, it's a challenge.
One.
I was listening to Stone's Throw and I heard Dame Funk and I was like, wow, like fuck, this is the same world.
Right.
You know, I could do it, you know. So that's how I got into the funk stuff. But
like just before we get into the Vapor Caves thing, you know, looking at I was listening to Boom Shakalaka again. A great, wonderful fucking album, dude. Give it a listen. It's so good. And I noticed that, you know, you have missing the beat that you gifted Yadira that you had existing. It was only instrumental. You gave it to her. She wrote the track Missing You, which is, I'm going to cry. It's about you.
Right.
Listen to Missing You by Yadira Brown. So great. And then I noticed that you have it on the album remixed and edited using samples of her vocals.
Her vocal pitched down. Like it's some psychedelic cumbia or something. Yeah, she'll pitch her vocal
so
way
sick.
down. Yeah.
So sick.
She's used to that. We've been remixing her voice like that forever.
Oh, so good.
She loves it.
And with that too, like one of your first tracks I heard was the Dilla tribute, the Mario Jump, right? And I was on acid. And I was laying down on Lorenzo's floor. I thought I dosed this one hit. It was actually 2.
Oh, shit.
And I didn't realize that till like 14 hours in the trip. I was like, oh my God, it was a 10 strip that I cut up myself without measuring it. We may have eaten 2 instead of 1.
Yeah.
And usually should have gotten up by 8. But we were listening to one of his mixes that he did, and you're in there. We listened to this mix nonstop. That was the only thing we listened to.
Loop it.
For the entire trip. Again, like 14 hours in.
Yeah.
Wonderful though. Did not mind it at all. And I remember I popped up again. I popped up a few times in this trip, and I was like, has he ever eaten LSD before?
No.
And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, because the way that you stack and layer your audio, you know, details is very much can be like an auditory hallucination. And I told you this once, and you were like, that? Yeah. You're like, that's cool, but you have no, like, there's no reference point for you. That's just what you're creating naturally.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, music's a drug too, you know, and that's how I treat it.
Depth. There's so much depth there.
Yeah.
And now with doing funk and Vapor Caves, you know, you're mentioning that you love doing your promo and marketing, and you know, are an ideas man, but you bring it to fruition. We did the Oh Fuck It All commercial for the Vapor Caves. First, was it the debut album, right? Which is what is the name of that album?
Feel Yourself was the name of the album. Yeah.
Great album, mixed by Bird Peterson, Cream Jean Records. Shout out.
Nice.
Okay. It's great. You put it on the headphones, listen to all forms of media in the car, headphones when you walk, on your record player when you're laying here. It's just fabulous. But we did the Fuck It All commercial, which was hilarious. We did.
So All Fuck It All was a drug.
Yeah.
That you could take to get rid of all your worries and cares, and it was OLFKTL. But All Fuck It All had serious side effects: testicle loss, full blindness,
anal prolapse,
death. And so, we did the classic thing where you run through all the side effects, like rapid speed.
Right.
I think Erin Jansen recorded that part.
She did.
But we wrote all of that at the bowling alley. We consulted each other. We said, "What's the worst side effects that you get?" Was yours the anal prolapse?
No. She did the whole thing. Mine was like, so he says to Richard, I says, "Fuck off,
Oh,
suck
yeah.
my dick," but it took all fuck it all.
Right.
Things are better now.
Oh, you were the testimonial.
I was the testimonial,
Yes.
weird, scratchy, smoky
Yes.
office lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
That was great.
One shout out to bowling alley. We were all on a bowling league together. It was a fabulous time for friendship. Where is your inspiration coming from when you're writing? The Vapor Capes, Be the Light. You were a candle salesman.
Yeah.
So funny. Paper Capes.
Yeah. No, I think you just like have to create a world every time. Like, it's so hard to sell records. It's so hard to give people an excuse to listen to your shit, especially with the social media era. Like, man, just going as fucking batshit crazy. I'm big on sketch comedy. Like, came up with in a Saturday Night Live family and all that comedy. So yeah, just writing wild shit like that to me is really like,
you're so good at it.
Cathartic.
And pulling us all together, right? Like
Yeah.
the music videos that we've all done, together, again, a tribute to our friendship, right? If you're watching any of the things that are done with Vapor Caves, that's all of our friend group, or most of our friend group. And even the behind the scenes, right? Kellen's wife, Jen, she's like working our hair and she's figuring things out. We've got people like spritzing us down or like helping us with costume changes.
It's a good group
that
of
is
people.
one thing that we definitely have in common among many other things, like sample loving and just music loving in general, is friendship and how much we fucking love it.
Yeah, we're a nice little family. It's
We are.
very sweet.
You're an only child, so you rely on.
Of course.
Yeah. And I feel like that in the same way, whereas like, I'm kind of the black sheep of my family. And so like my friends are my family and you just have to be around that.
The best friendship is the best.
It's the best. Top peak human experience.
It is.
And so listening again about, Butcher Bear encouraging you, and you were mentioning that you've got to have these friends that you exchange these music and ideas with. And this is how we cross-pollinate.
Yeah.
You
100%.
Think about, you keep expanding your ideas.
Find someone who you could send all of your favorite shit to that geeks you out. And the moment they start making you feel bad about sharing shit, find a new friend who will accept that shit.
You can keep them as whatever friend. They may not be your music sharing
Keep
friend.
them as the friend that you hate on shit with.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we've covered so much. I want to ask some of the questions I've been asking at the end of these interviews. What 3 pieces of advice would you give a 13-year-old girl?
Sure. I have a cousin who I saw in San Antonio who is an artist. She's doing great, visual art, very encouraging of her. And she recently told me that the way she writes papers is with artificial intelligence.
Oh, the GP chat?
I had never, clearly everyone else has heard about this.
Just heard about this.
I just found out, and it was a difficult situation because, I might be 20 years older than her. So I want to be like cool cousin.
Right.
But I also want to be a little bit like, let me put you up on game. When we were in school, we would find every fucking way to work around having to do shit we didn't want to do.
Cliff Notes, actually buying a pamphlet.
That's what I brought up. I brought up Cliff Notes, and she goes, "You bought something?" She goes, "Why would you buy something that told you the answers to?"
We didn't have the internet. It was used for AOL chat rooms and grooming children. That was it.
So exactly. So she showed me the chat thing. GP chat. Shout out GP chat.
Yeah.
So she showed me the GP chat, and she said, "Write about anything you want to write about." Okay. I'd like to know if in the next 20 years the vinyl industry is going to survive.
Fuck.
And she goes, "How many words?" Let's do 500 words. She goes, "Do you want like regular layman's terms, or would you like it to be like over the top?" "Oh, I'd like as if I were to write it. So just do layman's terms." Okay. Brrr.
Yeah.
Perfectly written. Every point that I would make was in there.
Terrifying.
Don't get me started. Kellen and I did it the other night about some wild
I did a
shit.
cover letter recently on that.
So on one end, I'm upset because I feel like she's not getting a full education.
Right.
On the other end, I'm like, dog, you got this shit figured out.
Right.
So I'm not answering it correctly because she taught me in that specific moment, but I would say don't fucking get caught. That would be the result of that.
Yo.
Because...
That's a good piece of advice. Don't get caught.
Man.
I told my 13-year-old second cousin, her mother, my cousin, we would, you know, we were rapscallions. We were out in the fucking streets.
Oh yeah.
Her mother was the best at it, dude. She was stealing. We were stealing her mom's car. We were, you know, all the, you know what I mean, like. And her daughter, you know, also just a little badass. Yeah. And you know, she got caught a couple things, and you know, her mother was like, "I did the same thing you did, but I never got caught. Try not getting caught. How about that?"
Dog, that's such a big key.
It really is.
Because you get a...
It's a game. Ride the game.
At that age, you're flying just like so high. It's so easy to fuck around and make those mistakes.
Right.
So anyway, I would probably tell her that first.
Yeah. Don't get caught. Number one.
Yes. Don't fuck with these basic ass dudes. We're gonna run you through the fucking meat grinder with all this bullshit.
Totally, absolutely.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Shit. Man, I was one of them. So you know, definitely be patient there. Man, what else would I tell them? What have other people been answering?
You know, I think I just started asking this.
How did Mez do?
I forget what Mez did, but I think his was pretty. You know, it was pretty rough and tumble. I think it was a similar thing. Like, don't fuck around with these fucking trash ass dudes.
Yes, that's the theme.
You know, society says, oh, a woman's sexual peak comes at 40, whereas the man's is at 18. And I don't know the science behind that specifically, but I came upon this realization is that I think that as a woman, I finally am comfortable in what I like and what I want and how to speak up for myself. Yeah. Rather than, you know, in the years prior, based on how society is, I was just a person in the room instead of being an active participant in the act, right? Big difference. Right. And so like now that, like, you know, once I got into my late 30s and my early 40s, I'm like, hold on, let me advocate for myself and look for what I particularly, right. And so, you know, like, I think that that's, again, thing like, hey, don't be out there, you know, if you want to find whatever, but also think about it, right? Like, I wish I would have, you know, learned more a little bit about, you know, what it is to be a woman in society and how conditioned we are without knowing that we're conditioned in that regard. Great advice.
I would probably say scream at people about getting your art heard also. It's like there's a...
Completely.
Vapor Caves is working on a record right now that is like an initiative to bring up female songwriters. The fact that that even has to exist in the first place is frustrating, but it's dope that it exists. So I would just say, like, make more of a case to scream at people at the table you want to sit at.
You know, there was a thing I was listening to about Girls Who Code, I think is the foundation, and they were saying that one of the number one problems is that when they're first starting out and they're showing, you know, when you're doing code, you use your text pad and your computer and you write it out before you put it into the system to run it. You got to check it first. And some of the girls would be like, hey, I'm kind of stuck. And they would Control Z what they had done. And they was showing that when they Controlled Z, it would bring up their previous work and it was correct. But it's this thing where, like, men are told that it's okay to be, you know, again, I'm using the term rough and tumble. It's just my term today. But, like, go out, make mistakes, fall off of things, scrape your knee. Whereas women, very young ages, are told, don't do any of that. You know, no scars on the legs. You know, don't make any mistakes. Be perfect, be silent, don't take up space. And so, again, love this project. Can't wait to hear what that's going to sound like.
Me too.
What business would you and I start together?
I proposed something recently to Avi that you could totally be a partner in. He proposed it to me, actually. One-offs. And it's ideas like what we have here. Okay. Which is recognizable but bootleg
Love a bootleg.
That you can't quite get sued on.
Yeah.
And is like so few of them that it's like...
Yeah.
Where are they even?
Right.
I love good bootleg shit.
Same. We love it. I get it. We love the bootleg shit.
I think that's like maybe the Latin shit. Like that, I've always been in the Latin markets where it's like, you know, fake Jordan jerseys and shit like that. Like, I love the imperfection of bootleg shit. Yeah. So I think we might start something like that. I'm in. With the third partner, Avi. Avi, call me.
Pipe Dreams Incorporated.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I love you so much. I can't wait until I interview you and Yadira both. Ooh. I had some questions saved up that I definitely wanted to happen for the Vapor Caves. Cool. Check out Vapor Caves. Check out Boom Shakalaka. They're on Spotify. Go to Bandcamp. Do some purchases. stay tuned, get involved. We love you so much. You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job.
Y'all keep going.
I love it.
Artists,
I love you.
keep going. Send shit to people you like.
Yeah. Share with your friends.
Find your beats within.
Share the